Hey guys, welcome to another Ammo Studio video. As you can see here, I'm working on my wife's Subaru Outback. This thing is disgusting. There's actually tar and junk as I'm looking at it now. The wheels are really gross. We went on a winter trip and it's time to clean this thing up. I would say it's a spring cleaning, but it's actually 19 degrees out. It's crazy here. Behind me, you can see I got the boys right there, Travis and Beav from Tactical Baby Gear. They're in here to help me sort of figure out a new bag for detailing. Those guys are the geniuses when it comes to Tactical Baby Gear stuff. They have bags. I'll show you a bunch of other things that they have. Really, really cool. But I want to be able to put wet towels in and tools and things, and so they're helping me design that. Very grateful for that. Plus, we have a bunch of new tools that I'm also working on. I want to kind of give you guys a sneak peek. But first, we're going to lift this car up, get it cleaned, and make my wife happy. That and a whole lot more on this episode of Drive and Protect / Ammo Studio. Step one is to lift the car and remove the wheels. Now, if you don't have a lift, you can just use a single jack or the quick jack system, or just leave the wheels on the car and you'll be fine. If you look closely, you can see that we still have our winters on. Now, these get changed at the dealership during the oil change before winter. So we remove the summers and we put the winters on. But when they put the winters on back then, this is what happened. Couldn't do that again if I tried. Told you these are too tight. Man, I felt like I stripped that. Oof, I felt like I stripped that one. Yoza. What? Now that I have an issue with the car, I went across the street to see Steve! Steve! Can I borrow some PB blaster?
With a torque wrench, it's got to move and then click.
Yeah.
If it doesn't move, you're too tight.
Right.
You know? So, but just go for the gusto.
Okay.
If it breaks, it breaks.
Oh, good. Good. Thank you.
I'll bail you out.
Thank you. Simple detailing video. Where is spring? It is not here. It is not here. Oh, dude, we have some plants coming up here. They're gonna freeze tonight. It's gonna be 19 degrees. It's supposed to snow again. And then this morning, Jordan tells me that somebody ran into my mailbox. What's going on right now? He says this isn't gonna work, blah, blah, blah. He's like, but go nuts.
Yeah, I mean the problem, you need to get it
He said that because
in the
this,
threads and
yeah,
then
he
back
said it
this way.
He said because you have this on there.
Right. But
I mean, what I moved it a whole lot right there. Look at that. I mean, Steve, I haven't even started detailing yet.
no threads left.
So what happened? Why is it smoking?
They probably cross-threaded.
Because it's cross-threaded.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can pull it off.
Oh my gosh, look at that thing. So with that unexpected issue, I wondered what else we as detailers could look for or be prepared for when cleaning our cars from a mechanical perspective. Okay, as you guys saw in the front wheel there, it was really hard to get off, so something in my mind said, hey, this is not gonna be a good thing. Sure enough, that one worked, but back here, we had a problem. It spun off or did something, and now this is all crushed. Obviously, you're not here to help me with this. You're helping me with something else,
Yes.
But you know a whole lot more about this. So explain to me, and then more importantly, what happened and how do we prevent this?
So what happened in this scenario, what it looks like is that this lug nut was cross-threaded at the last place that it was worked on. Your wife had the tires put on probably at the dealership or whatever. They cross-threaded this thing and they just rammed it in with the impact. You unfortunately had to deal with getting that off, which doing something like this now during a spring cleaning and you finding this now versus your wife dealing with this on the side of the road later with a flat tire is huge.
Oh, good point.
You know what I mean? So it's annoying to deal with. Thankfully, something like a stud isn't the end of the world. You'll pull the brake caliper off, you'll pull the rotor off, we'll knock the stud out of the back of it, we'll pull a new stud back in.
Steve to the rescue on this one. But is there something, or maybe the answer is no, and that's okay too, but is there something I could have been like walking in and be like, yo, can you not do this or that? Or
that should be they should know better. You shouldn't have to ask for that as a customer. I think sometimes it's just a lazy tech, and there's not always a way to prevent that.
Isn't that like you put the thing on first and you do like two or three screws?
Yeah, but you're not going to go back there and hold the technician's hand, right? They should thread it on, especially you guys at home watching, right? Like when you go to put the wheels back on your car, give it 3-4 turns by hand, and then use a tool, and then torque it down to the proper
So likely
torque
he
specs.
was just like, I gotta get out, and like he's like
He's
doing
going
10,000
NASCAR on this thing.
Really,
Like,
and that's
like,
okay.
That's just what happens.
So this is okay.
He's racing the clock. He's trying to get paid and get it done quickly.
Okay.
You know. Now, there's other scenarios that you would find a similar situation where it could be rusted. You guys are in the Northeast. You have a lot of rust to deal with, things like that. So adding a little bit of anti-seize to the threads is a good thing. Prevents rust, makes everything spin nice and smooth. So getting lug nuts on and off later is way easier if you lubricate these threads just a little bit. Just needs a little bit. And then obviously using stuff like anti-salt to kind of prevent that corrosion will be beneficial as well.
Got it. All right, we're going to do the rest of the cleaning, but there was a little sidebar on that thing.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get this done before the end of the day
Now you
because
can start
my
cleaning.
wife will be a little not thrilled if it sits here all night. So start cleaning. All right, there you go. While I waited for the new parts to arrive, it was now time to start power washing to blow off all the clogged up sand and salt. When I started the video today, my goal was to do an armpit detail on my wife's car and sort of get it refreshed for winter. Of course, when I took off the driver's side rear, one of the bolts, I guess, was cross-threaded. The stud was pulled it off, and obviously everything broke. And we sort of turned this video into what happens now, because legitimately I went to you and I said, hey, you're a mechanic, you have that background, like what else should I be looking at? It's my wife's car, my kid's in here. Like I started like panicking a little bit, like we got this up in the air.
What else do I need to be looking
exactly.
at?
I'm
Right.
like, oh my gosh, I got to give this back to her. So with that being said, I thought, why not just turn this into a little bit of a, what are the top 5, 4, 10, whatever, I don't care. Things to think about as a detailer, understanding that not everybody has a car lift. So keep that in mind and give us a little bit of the feedback as to what I should be looking at, even for my customer cars when I take the wheels off.
Yeah, customer car, your wife's car, whatever it is, keeping everyone safe. Anytime you get the wheels off the car, there's a handful of things that are really good, quick visual inspections. First one being the brakes. They are front and center. It's easy to see. You've got the brake pads right here. Now you've got an inner pad and an outer pad on it. And you know, oftentimes the outer pad won't wear as quickly as the inner pad because you've got the piston pushing directly in from the backside, applying the pressure to that first, and then it's pulling this one in. So this one looks okay, but if you looked at the backside, these things need to be replaced immediately.
Like I look at this one right here and I go like, yeah, I guess if this one's good, the other one's got to be good. Like,
Right, yeah. So it's always good if you can, especially when the wheel's off. When the wheels are on and you're just kind of peeking in there, you're like, yeah, okay, I got some time. But if you can look on the backside and just get a visual check there, that's always beneficial. Same with the rotors. You want to inspect these. You want to make sure they feel good. If there's a big lip here, you definitely want to replace them. These aren't so bad, but I do recommend replacing the rotors anytime you're replacing your pads. Sometimes they're warped, so in a rear brakes being warped, you'll feel a pulsation in the pedal when you're braking. If the front brakes are warped, you'll feel the steering wheel vibrate when you're braking and things like that. So those are good indicators as well that you need to have your brakes inspected, get it to a shop, make an appointment, whatever. Other things to check while you're in here beyond the brake pads would be your shocks. Look for any visual oil leaking from your shocks. If so, you would need to replace those. You want to inspect the brake lines, make sure there's no cracks. Look for dry rot, kind of bend the hose a little bit, see if there's cracks that appear and things like that. Ball joints, you know, there's little rubber boots and dust boots around ball joints to look at. You've got your CV axles, which for something like, I guess, all-wheel drive car or front-wheel drive car, it would be pretty obvious if the axle boot was broken, ripped, torn. You'd have grease slinging out everywhere.
And definitely do it before you wash, because I washed the other side.
Yes.
And like it's all wet now, I can't see anything, and this side we didn't do. So keep that in
Absolutely,
mind.
yeah. This is a visual inspection you want to do before you start washing the car and sort of make that mental checklist somewhere and say, okay, next time I bring it to the mechanic, or I need to schedule this thing, and get some things taken a look at. So let's go up front, and we'll check out and see anything else. So on the front here, you've got a few other things to consider. You've got a lot of moving parts. You've got steering components and things of that nature. So one thing beyond checking your brake pads, which we already talked about, give this a little bit of a back and forth wiggle. You want to check your steering components. You've got inner and outer tie rod ends. You want to make sure you don't feel any hard clunks. That would indicate you've got some steering components that are worn and maybe need to be addressed, alignments, things of that nature. Again, check your shocks up here, but there's a few more things under the hood we should take a look at when we're doing this inspection as well.
Okay.
So under the hood, things that you want to look at are your belts. So you want to take a look at your drive belt. Look for any cracks on the inside surface of the ribs. That'll indicate, you know, this is dry rotted, it could break, etc. You want to look at your hoses, radiator hoses, the same thing, looking for dry rot cracks, looking for evidence of any leaks, looking for oil drips, antifreeze. Could be green or orange antifreeze depending on the make and model. So looking, you know, sort of behind the belts for leaks and things like that, that might indicate the water pump's leaking, or looking around the top of your radiator to see if an end tank is leaking, things of that nature. Other things that are often easy to check is just do a quick air filter check, you know, pop the tabs open, pop this guy out, and just kind of give a quick visual inspection. Some cars are easier than others. It's not always a very accessible thing, but if it's easy to look at, take a quick peek. And that's
What about the oil? Like if I pull this out, I see people smelling it. Is that like a thing?
If you had drivability issues and it was running bad, you might want to smell it, right? You
What am I smelling or not smelling for?
like excessive fuel. If there was a head gasket problem in this car and you had antifreeze leaking into the oil, it would be sort of milky. It looked like chocolate milk or a milkshake, and it'd be real. It would just be sort of like a thick brown substance when you mix water and oil together. But I mean, it smells like oil. You don't have any drivability issues with this car, I'm assuming. It's got plenty of oil in it. I can see where it's sitting sort of just over the full line, so no issues or concerns there. Same thing with transmission fluid, although you could check it just for quality, but most of the time you're checking automatic transmission fluid while the car is running and in these optimal conditions, so it's not always the easiest thing to check.
And are you okay with leaves inside?
No, all the leaves and dirt needs to go.
That part I can handle. All right, let's get to
Good.
cleaning this thing.
Let's get to going.
Next, I filmed the foam gun with foam and Boost anti-salt, topped it off with water, and soaked the Outback. Now, I focused on the door jambs, or what we affectionately call the armpits of the car, especially after a long winter and before Mother's Day. With the car fully up on the lift, I once again used Boost anti-salt on the undercarriage. That's wildly important, especially after winter. Again, if you don't have a lift, you can work on the ground. One of the tricks that I used to use in the past was to tape a hose to a broom handle and kind of slide it underneath there, or you can just go out and buy an actual tool where you hook it up to your hose and run it underneath their undercarriage. But either way, you really need to focus on cleaning out all the junk that's underneath your car, especially after winter. Okay, while the undercarriage is soaking with anti-salt, here are a few things. I know you guys are on the studio channel, you like to sort of nerd out on all these things. I'm working on new brushes, and as you can see here, this is just a regular, the one I've used on tons of videos underneath, but what I did is we call it a dual density, meaning there's the tall side here. I'm using this one right now, so it's a little wet. And there's one that's drier. See how it's a little tall right here, and then you come inside, it's a little bit shorter. We're playing with that. Again, I'm actually gonna make this a tri-density where inside here is a little bit stiffer. Let me give you another example. This and this is a very stiff bristle brush, right? If you're gonna do something like, you know, scrubbing the floor of a boat or whatever, perfect, or maybe some floor mats. But then what I did was I took these and put it in between these softer ones. So it's what we call dual density. It's super cool. So you can rub like this, okay, and now you're not actually hitting the red part, right? But if you need to get in there a little bit harder, you push harder and you get stronger material. Kind of cool. It's the same concept with the inside. There's this brush right here, a little stiff, probably a little too stiff for leather, let's say. This one is perfect for leather, but sometimes you need a little bit more oomph. Then I put this strip in between here. We dig it, we love it. I've been working with the guys at Braun. This thing is absolutely amazing. So nice, you know, you're doing your seats or whatever, and you want to push a little bit harder, you're good to go. Same concept. Now these are all prototypes I have in here, different lengths and whatnot. But inside here, we're going to be doing the same thing, just like this. So now you have larger areas, like a back seat or something, but now you want to work just a smaller area. You'll have these fibers in there. This one doesn't have it yet. We're still working on the prototype, but a bunch of those. And then we came up with the AMMO Wheel Woolly or Wheel Bully. This is going to be great for getting inside the calipers in smaller little areas. Maybe it comes in a, I don't know, we have a bunch more. Here they are. Comes in a kit of a couple of them, one or two. I'm not really sure what we're doing quite yet, but we might stick that into the vents. So we're working on a ton of cool things. But for now, we're gonna take our dual density brush. I think it's gonna be a tri-density brush in the future. I'm not sure. We're gonna go and clean the underneath of my wife's car. Look at all that junk. Look at that. Next, I degreased the wheels and scrubbed everything I could get my brush on. Afterwards, I washed the paint with the one bucket multiple towel method.
Is this what you would call a labor of love?
Labor of love. She's not as enthusiastic about cleaning cars as I am, but she does like a clean car. So it works out nice. Dude, seriously, every Subaru I've ever worked on, like as soon as you polish it up or wash it, it's just like, it just glows. With the paint now soaking, I then scrubbed the engine with the dual density brushes and removed trapped leaves and junk and just rinsed everything I could. Next, I'm drying the paint as I've done for the last 10, 12 years or so. Lots of lubrication with AMMO Hydrate, but this time it's with my latest version with Reflex Pro mixed into the lubrication. Notice that there isn't a trigger sprayer on this Pro version because it's much thicker. In other words, you're essentially recoating the car during the drying process. As you know, the AMMO philosophy from day one is about building layers of protection for increased paint integrity and, of course, reflection or shine. You can use the new AMMO Hydrate Pro on coated and uncoated paints after a healthy wash. I'll have a full how-to video on AMMONYC.com. Of course, check that out very soon. More to come. One of my very favorite parts of cleaning any car is spending time on the wheels. Now, as you can see, these are gross. They're absolutely destroyed. We drove really, really far in upstate New York. So we used Plum and Brute plus the wheel brush, and it did the trick. Once the wheels were clean and dry, then I applied a fresh coat of AMMO Gelée to each rim. Just about then, our new parts arrived for the wheel, so Beav, a former mechanic, popped the caliper and the rotor off and started to play with removing the wheel stud. While he was sort of playing around with that, I was cleaning the door jambs with the brush and anti-salt. Now, this is another great way to just flush out months worth of lingering salt, which is why these areas tend to be hot spots for rust. When I was done, I rinsed with an open sprayer to avoid spraying a bunch of water inside the car. With the stud extractor, Beav pushes the stud out of the wheel hub and reinstalled the new stud in its place. But at the same time, he noticed that the pads and the rotors could use a change, so he went back over to Steve's to get a few more tools and parts.
I have this one, and I have this guy that's adjustable.
When the new rotors finally came in, they have oil on them, I guess preventing them from rusting in shipping, that sort of thing. So Beav used some thinner to clean them up to avoid getting oil in the brake pads that were brand new. With the pads, the calipers, and of course the stud back on the driver's side, he decided to do the passenger side as well. Now you can see the difference in pad depth from left to right. Now I had a little bit of meat left, probably a couple of months, etc., but it was worth changing since we had everything open right now. Before the pads can go in, the piston in the caliper needs to be compressed so it can fit over the new or thicker pads and then bolted into place. Finally, to avoid future issues, Beav added some lubrication to the studs, and I'm good to go to reinstall the wheels, but I do need to get some Summers back on very soon. I may not be going to the same dealership, that's for sure. With the car now back down on the ground, I cleaned up the rubber floor mats with Titan 12 degreaser and some scrubbing. Take this, do a little scrubbing, really get in there. Good man. The inside of the car was pretty normal. It had normal dust and dirt and, of course, coffee stains everywhere and spillage on the center console. Again, that's all normal for me. Finger smudges on the touchscreen and grime on the steering wheel. Nothing as considered a disaster, but it does need to be cleaned. First thing I like to do is vacuum, and in this case, I used a dual density carpet brush to kind of lift the dirt before I came in with the vacuum. It sort of stirs it up to the surface, and you can vacuum it out, especially on the inside of, let's say, Outbacks or maybe Honda Civics, that kind of thing where they have a little bit of more nappy hair. This is a great tool to use. Next, I used lather, scrub pad, and a brush to agitate the plastics and leather before wiping away with a microfiber towel. For the screens, I used Obey and 2 towels. For the headliner, I used Shag and a scrub pad. Again, only spot clean what needs to be done on headliners. Otherwise, just leave them alone if possible.
Have fun? Or do you really want to have fun? What show? I have 100 golf balls in my trunk.
Okay, guys, we are in the inside of the car right now, and we cleaned a whole bunch with lather, the top here, the steering wheel, etc. But as you can see down here, there's a bunch of coffee stains. Now, I know that because it's my wife and she drinks lots of coffee. Plus, there's coffee stains here. And look at this. They're all dried and all in here. Very, very common on the inside of cars. Now, we can hit that with lather, but sometimes that doesn't work. Why? Because lather is closer to pH neutral than, let's say, siphon. Siphon here is coffee cleaner, but in reality, if you turn it over, you can read right here. It is effective against juice, coffee, tea, rust, blood, organic stains, that kind of thing. So we have a lower pH, meaning it's a more specific cleaning product. You can use it on the fabric like this or on these areas here like the cup holders. What that's going to do is clean those specific stains, and then you can go back in and bring the pH level back to around neutral with lather. It's just, again, a more specific cleaner that you may not be able to get like that right here. If I do this, there's coffee stain, little drips. There's another one right here. You see that stain right there? See that one? It's small, but let that sit and penetrate. So basically, as you know, you're driving, you're drinking, and you go like this, you're with the coffee in your hand. Now look at these over here. I'll hit these real quick, just let it do its thing. And then I'll fill the cup holder. This will take all those stains out. Now, if you had a red stain or a juice stain or tea stain in the back, same kind of concept here. But look, another one right here, coffee. Coffee. Okay. Now you're gonna go in, you're gonna agitate it, just like you would lather. You know, let it sit for a second. Cleaning is really about finding the specific pH that caused the issue and then sort of counteracting it with another pH. That's kind of the secret behind all of this stuff. So let that sit. Now you're picking up all of that organic stuff here. Same thing here. See, it's turning white. Look at that. See that right there? That's the junk right there. That's why it's a little different than lather. Are you catching that on camera? See the whiteness? It's easy to see against the chrome thing there. Okay. This guy here. Do a little scrubbing. Okay. Come back in, blot. Pick those up. Look at that. See that stain over here? Gone. This one over here, still a little wet, but looks much better. Now this one over here, come in, scoop this up, get the majority of it up. Now once everything looks nice and clean, you're gonna gently go back in. You don't need to use a whole lot. Use lather, and you're gonna bring the pH level back up to neutral. You don't wanna leave anything, just quick. Go back in. I do this sometimes because it's already clean. I'm just trying to really neutralize everything. There you go. Now it's definitely cleaned and definitely neutralized. Compressed air is your best friend on the interior. Perfect. So when you have coffee stains, just make sure you're using the specific pH level that's designed to clean coffee and tea and blood and those rust. Those are all in that same sort of category with a lower pH. And look at that. And it smells good too. You smell that? It smells good. Finally, I disinfected everything with Restore. Now check out the website video for a complete how-to, but in this case, I spray about 6 inches away from the surface. I allow it to stay visibly wet for 2 minutes, and then I wipe away to kill microorganisms and bacteria, etc., without bleaching or scratching your interior. Again, I'll have more information on the website, but it is a game changer in today's world for sure. I repeated the same steps on the door and soft surfaces like the fabrics or the seats, that kind of thing, to sanitize them after cleaning. Afterwards was the windows, then Frame Pro on all the Subaru trim pieces. And as you know, as the Subaru Outback, the whole thing is a trim piece. So when you do that, it looks absolutely phenomenal when you're done. I also repeated the same steps on the engine as well, and it looked brand new, and my wife was happy. I added some mud to the tires, and the car looked absolutely amazing. Well, guys, we're all done with my wife's Subaru Outback. This was pretty cool. We spent a couple of hours, and we worked on frame. Of course, you can see the thing looks absolutely amazing. Inside, more importantly, we did restore. Why? I have a little guy. And of course, they get germs and little boogers and all kinds of stuff. So we wanted to hit it with restore to make sure that it is disinfected. But what I wasn't planning for was, of course, there he is, Beav, and Travis is back there, that we messed up a, what was it called again? A stud? Wheel stud. Wheel stud. He's a wheel stud. So we took the wheel stud and fixed it, replaced it, and then of course actually did my wife's brakes as well. So super fun. Hope you guys enjoyed it. This was a little bit of a behind the scenes. Why? Because I just actually needed to get the car done because I have one day, my wife needs it, etc. So we wanted to make a studio video. As always, guys, I appreciate you watching. If you have any questions, you know where to find me, Larry at AMMONYC.com. And for those guys over there, tacticalbabygear.com. And they are helping me with a new detail bag like I mentioned before. So we'll have more information when that comes out. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys.